Are we done? All right. Thanks, James. What's up, everybody? Welcome to PayTrace Power30. My name is Sam. Super excited to be doing this again. Our guest today is a man of many names. We call him Homer, but he also goes by Homero, Homie, Hombre. And yesterday we found out the wizard Hominino.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
I get that one every once in a while too, apparently.
So, so welcome everybody. If you haven't been on one of these before, these are quick half-an-hour interview-like segments with some pay tracers to give you the inside scoop on what's going on behind the scenes and how they can help you be a little bit more successful. Today, we've got Homer. He is our developer support engineer. So we're going to get a little bit technical, maybe, with some integrations. You guys may be wondering, why the heck are we dressed like this? We've got some hats on. It's pretty hot in the office, but as you can see, we brought in the outside. Look at that. This is fresh snow from our parking lot. We are in a snowstorm here in Spokane, Washington, and the entire state of Washington. James, do you have some photos here that we can show our audience of what the heck is going on? Let's show this. Let's see, where the heck is this? This is Spokane. Look at that. That's some guy shoveling some snow. We got hammered this weekend. I'd say what, maybe a foot?
Give or take, actually.
Give or take.
Maybe a little more.
He's over in Cheney up on the hill. Look at this guy. He's having some issues scraping his car off. There you go. Winter Wonderland in Spokane, Washington. So we decided to make it a little winter themed. Might start sweating here in a little bit, not gonna lie. It's a little puffy. A little puffy in here. Anyway, so Power30. Again, for anybody that hasn't joined this before, this is your opportunity to ask Homer some of those really tough questions that you've always wanted to ask. Get them in early. We only have 30 minutes today, and first come, first serve on questions. So we want to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. I want to learn a little bit more about you, Homer.
Okay.
So you've been with us for a couple of years now. At our all-company meeting a couple months ago, you broke out some pipes. You're kind of a singer.
Yeah. To say that I'm the country singer down at Cheney. I'm known for my karaoke skills.
Okay, so I heard that there's a story behind this. Marketing was telling me. So tell me about karaoke.
Okay. So way back in the day, didn't really like my voice. Kind of was not fun of it. Then after a few drinks one day, I decided, sure, why not? And before I know it, you start getting requests and you start having people make you sing. Yeah. So now anytime I go down, if you want to go down to Cheney, you'll have a rodeo on a Friday or a Saturday night if you hear me sing.
Okay.
Yeah. Good time though.
You are the man. You are
I'm
the
the
voice.
man.
Are we going to see you on ABC on The Voice anytime soon?
I have actually tried out for that, believe it or not.
No kidding.
Not even mine.
I totally pulled that out of thin air. That's awesome. Team Blake, I'm assuming.
That's where I would like to go.
Okay. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Give me another run.
You guys, hit social media. We need Homer to get on TV. Man, that's awesome. So I just want to segue really quick. We had some interesting intro music here a second ago. What was that? Some Kenny G? Some Coltrane? Okay, see, I don't know this stuff.
Come on, man.
But you're also an avid saxophone player, some jazz sax.
Yes, I have. I've been playing since I was, I want to say, 4th, 5th grade. So it's been 18, 20 years now, give or take.
A couple decades.
Yeah, been a little rusty now. It's been focusing on my singing career, but no, thoroughly enjoy it. Play the alto saxophone and the baritone saxophone.
Well, maybe the next PayTrace Power30 will have maybe a music edition.
Sure, let's do it.
We'll see. We'll see what the feedback is on that. Well, let's get into some of the nitty gritty. So you are PayTrace's developer support engineer.
Correct.
Right. So a couple weeks ago, we had Kevin Hurd on the call, talking a lot about integrations, ISVs, things like that. What's your job in comparison to Kevin?
So Kevin and I are partners. First off, we're both part of the integrations team here at PayTrace, and Kevin handles ISVs, so independent software vendors, kind of solutions that multiple merchants can benefit from. Is how we like to kind of think of that.
Okay.
I am do the relationship management with single merchant integrations. So these are more your custom integrations for a specific merchant. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's their own homegrown software they use. So I kind of help them, guide them through the integration process. And I'm also the technical support for both ISV integrations and single merchant integrations. So anybody who has coding questions, problems like that, they come to me.
I got you. So when our reps come to us with maybe a new ISV and they're like, hey, can you guys integrate with this? That hits your desk a lot of the time. And when you're working on that partnership and okay.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And obviously at that point, Kevin and I correlate quite a bit.
Right. So ISVs, those are going to be things like QuickBooks, like Salesforce integrations.
SAP.
Okay.
Microsoft Dynamics.
So tell me a little bit more about these single merchant integrations, because I think that's going to be kind of the theme for today's conversation.
Okay.
What is a single merchant integration? Can you give me like an example of what that looks like?
Yeah, sure. So good examples, we have one of our merchants. They are a large robotics competition, actually. So they're actually nationwide, or international, I should say, sorry. So they have a website that they have where people, or their teams come in, buy parts, buy their kits, gain information. So they want to have a payment solution for that. We're their payment solution. So you go to their website, they have it developed there, and then you get transferred over to PayTrace to make the payment. That way, it's PCI compliant outside of their domain. They don't have to worry about any of that security information. And then they process payments, and we respond back saying, hey, your payment's been paid.
Okay.
So we a lot of what I do tends to be with a lot of website-based type stuff.
Okay. And it sounds like these shops are maybe a little bit more complex than kind of your everyday just virtual terminal.
Exactly.
Merchant.
Definitely. Usually there's a specific need they're trying to meet.
Okay.
Whether it's updating their CRM system, their ERP system, or being able to not have to have someone, on PayTrace at all times. For example, our secure checkout solution does very well at letting the customer kind of dictate that payment, so it's not so much in the hands of the salesperson, what have you. I can go to the website as a customer, make a payment, and I don't have to have a representative from any of our merchants manually facilitating that.
Right. No, that makes sense. So basically, any merchant that has kind of a specific use case scenario that's outside of what maybe an existing ISV has.
Exactly.
Or what our functionality can do with our pre-built software. They want to come in and make something specific to them.
Exactly.
That's where Homer comes in. I gotcha. Okay. That's some pretty cool stuff. So essentially we have the ability to land some of these very complex and a lot of the times from what we're seeing, very high volume types of merchants, right? They're processing lots of transactions, very large transactions a lot of the times. For our reps, that's probably going to be pretty good benefit for them, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely. I speak to reps all day long.
I'm sure you've heard a lot of scenarios. I mean, these guys are processing $1 million a month, $5 million a month. No,
exactly. We need a solution tomorrow. How can we make this happen?
Okay.
Well,
that's interesting. So you bring up, we need this tomorrow. These aren't necessarily easy. They're not plug and play like a lot of these ISVs are.
Definitely not.
No. So can you give me an idea of what the process looks like, kind of step by step of developing out one of these maybe custom integrations for a merchant?
Absolutely. So typically what we do is we just start with what we call a discovery call, or sometimes an initial consultation, where I'm going to speak with your developer, your merchant, kind of find out what is your need, what solution are you seeking, and can PayTrace provide that? Sometimes we're not a good fit, and that's okay. That happens. Sometimes they have a unique situation where maybe we don't have the technology to accommodate, or maybe they don't have the resources to accommodate us. So then that does happen. From that point on, we kind of go to a step where we're going to get you a sandbox so you can start testing. They'll go through a development process, or in the development process, maybe that's when they're asking me questions, specific. We get down to the nitty-gritty details. After testing, they go live. We switch them over from a sandbox account to a production account, and they're off and running. Time length, these vary. I've had integrations go from maybe a week long, and some of the more complicated ones take a couple months. So like you said, they're very customized. They're not quite turnkey, like you said, like an ISV would be.
Right. Exactly. So I want to throw it out there. You mentioned sandbox accounts.
Yep.
Right. For those of you that might not know what a sandbox account is, right, that's kind of just your testing environment where a developer can go in and just kind of testing out, right, their
exactly.
integration that they're working on in a non live environment.
Exactly. The whole point of that is you can go, you mess around, make mistakes. That's okay.
Right.
You're testing, obviously we don't want to send live information out there for processing. I don't think a developer wants to, process his credit card every day to make a payment. That could get expensive and charge your merchant a little more money than they originally bargained for.
Yeah.
But yeah, we supply testing information. We have testing scenarios. So for example, if you put, 22 cents, it'll generate a decline regardless of what's going on. So you can kind of test how your system would react to real life information coming from a real process.
Oh, that's really cool. So you can also plug in like maybe a test level 3 transaction,
exactly.
Right? Okay. James, would you be able to pull up our kind of that Sandbox page so we can show everybody how to get there? Awesome. Oh, some more snow there for a sec. Cool. So we're on our website right now. If you guys can all see this, up on the top, you'll see James clicked on that developers link. It's highlighted. There it is. Right at the top of the page, you'll see this big red-orange button that says Request Sandbox Account. All right, let's go ahead and just click on that, see what it looks like. So essentially, this is all you really need to get that process started, right? To get that testing environment set up. It's just going to ask you a couple questions, right?
Yep. Simple questions, name, last name, this name, contact info. So if we need to get a hold of you, we can. And then you also, tell us about you. That kind of determines whether maybe the Sandbox is meant for me as, a single merchant, or maybe it's something that's a lead for Kevin. So
right.
our ISV and manager can go into. And then obviously it'll ask you, hey, what are you looking for? Are you looking for just API documentation? Are you looking for a Sandbox account? PayTrace ID. We're really big on making sure people have that. And at that point, that gets generates an email to me, and I create you a Sandbox, usually within 24 hours. I will say as a tip, sometimes it doesn't quite happen within 24 hours, and maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's just the system. Emails don't always make it. If that's the case, guys, just email developer support at paytrace.com with your request. You'll get a copy of that form, and I'll get you one pumped out. The idea is to get you, up and running as soon as possible. We don't want to delay people more than normal.
Right.
We have to.
Right. No, that's some great advice, Homer. I appreciate it. Right. We want to make sure that there's an understanding that these can take a little bit of time,
yes.
Right? It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's usually going to be worth it once, in the
exactly.
long term, getting this thing set up.
Exactly.
So you mentioned your contact, right? Developer support at paytrace.com. I want to call that out again, right? Write that down, guys. Developer support at paytrace.com. That's probably the best way to get a hold of you directly, right?
Yes, exactly. So if you want to schedule a call with me or a conference call, maybe it's a follow-up, discovery call, as I mentioned earlier, that's the best way to get a hold of me. I man that queue. I'm in charge of that queue. So any email goes there will reach me. And at that point, we can discuss scheduling out maybe a future call tomorrow, the next day, that day, kind of arrange a conference call time where we can get all the stakeholders involved from your end and our end and kind of move forward through that process.
Right. We want to call out, right? We don't want this process to be very complicated. It shouldn't be. It can be kind of intimidating a lot of the times for our sales reps, right? You get this guy talking about, developer language, JSON API, Python.
What does this mean?
Ruby on Rails. and exactly, what does all this mean? We don't expect our resellers, our agents out there to understand all of this.
Absolutely
right?
not. Absolutely not.
That's why we've got you.
Hey, even I don't understand all of it sometimes. I'll just be honest. I try.
No, that's all good. It's all learning. And so you've been with us for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, give or take.
So before you came on board with the team, there's kind of this big gap between these custom integrations that were sitting out there and with PayTrace, because I remember I used to be on client support. I got those calls all the time, like, hey, we need some help integrating, and then your heart just drops and you're like, oh no.
You're Wizard Sam.
Yeah, I'm not Wizard Sam. We need some Wizard Hominino in on that. So guys, this is a really cool resource for you guys. I call Homer our best kept secret all the time. He just found this out. But you really are, right? A lot more people need to know about you because there's missed opportunities all the time when it comes to landing these integrations. And right, there shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. I want to take a quick pause. James, I made a poll. I don't know if you know this. I didn't tell you. I made a poll. Can we launch that? I think there's just the one poll. Guys, Homer's been with us for a while. I want to know how many of you guys have actually reached out to our developer support team and used this. Let's get a call. Let's get a tally.
Ooh.
All right. So looks like maybe half of us have, half of us haven't. That's pretty interesting numbers. Let's take about 10 more seconds and keep this going. There's a lot of not yet, but I will now. We're adding a lot more work to your plate, man. I'm sorry.
I love it.
I'm sorry about that. We may need to hire some more Homeros. Well, I can answer this actually on my little tablet. Oh, no, I can't. I can't answer it. See, it says I can't. Let's close it out. End that poll. Cool. Very cool. So it looks like, majority of people have talked to you at some point. So that's pretty awesome, man.
Good.
You're getting out there. Maybe you're not our best.
It was all good.
Secret. So do we. Well, cool. Guys, feel free to send in those questions right now. I'm starting to get a little sweaty, not going to lie.
I bet, man.
We've got a comment on here from Todd. I don't know if you've worked with Todd, but we know Todd very well. Karaoke request for Homer. Free bird.
It's not quite country.
Oh, come on, man.
I have to put a little twang in there, man. It's who I am.
What would you,
I don't look twang, but I am.
What would you call Skinner? What would you call Leonard Skinner? Country rock?
Country rock. It's older country rock. I mean,
All
I
right.
like the man, but I don't know if I'm.
All right. Well, I'm being polite right now, but I think we might start a fight here in a little bit. Well, cool. So maybe, we've talked a little bit about the steps that it takes to land some of these merchants, and you mentioned discovery calls. What can maybe our agents expect from that discovery call, and maybe what can they do in preparation, right, to prepare their merchant? What information can they have ready to go for you so that maybe this isn't going to take a few months? Maybe we can cut that time a little bit.
Right. So definitely a couple things that come to mind is, first off, background on the merchant. What do they do?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the merchant can answer that, but a lot of times I go into calls and they have kind of a notion where I already assume or I already understand a lot of what this merchant is doing, what they're trying to accomplish. And even if it's at a high level, just knowing our merchant does X, Y, Z, I'm looking to implement, functionalities, 1, 2, 3. Give me an idea so I can come into that consultation or conversation with the ability to say, okay, I have an idea of how we can potentially accomplish this.
Right.
Also, are they using a third-party developer? Do they have in-house developers? Is there somebody else that I need to have at the table? Because the last thing we need is to go into a discovery call, find out that some of the people that need to be there, whether developers or what have you, aren't there.
Right.
And there might be questions where I might assume that a specific functionality is easy to accomplish, but on their back end, that's not quite the case. I don't know their technology. We have to make sure we can always have that gap as small as possible.
Right. No, that makes sense. And just to call it out, right, if you're not going to build the entire integration from the ground up, right? There needs to be some skin in the game from the merchant themselves. They need to have that type of structure where they have a developer that they either have on staff or that they've contracted out, and you're there to support them.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of these, single merchant integrations, they're a lot more customized. They have, special requirements, whether it's because of their specific application they're using or, the servers, what have you, all that technical jargon in the back end. It's not as, like we mentioned, a plug and play as, going to maybe one of our QuickBooks solutions where, we put in a password and you're probably done, maybe a little bit of installation. These are going to be a lot more hands-on on the code type integration when you deal with me.
Okay, very cool. So on the actual discovery call, you probably want to have the agent, the sales agent.
Absolutely.
Right? You're going to want to have whatever technical staff that they have. Are there any other kind of stakeholders from the merchant's end that you either typically see on there or that you'd like to see on there?
The users. A lot of times, y'all talk to maybe a CEO or maybe, a management or what have you. But a lot of times what I'm finding is your associates, the people who are using your software on a day-to-day basis, their input makes a huge difference. Because, maybe you and I, you're a CEO of some company, you and I agree on some functionality, thinking it's all good, good to go. And the user comes in like, well, this doesn't work for me because I actually, do this process a little differently than what you thought I did. Right. Now we have to change stuff up. That probably could have been addressed earlier. Once you're kind of in code, it's a little more difficult to kind of regress.
Gotcha.
So the idea is to get as much information from, get as much data in the data pool as we can from the beginning of the call, beginning of that conversation to integration process, then funnel down into what we're get that functionality implemented. So I would just say any common users, your associates, your sales team, whatever you're using, whoever you have on staff that actually touches the software you're trying to implement.
I gotcha. Well, I'm curious, and I know a lot of our reps are curious, but do you have specific examples of maybe the types of merchants that are using this, or maybe any trends of industries or verticals that you're seeing coming through your desk frequently?
I'm seeing a lot of, I want to say, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of merchants who have, they have their own store, they have their own setup, and they want to take payments on their site.
Okay.
They don't want to have to go to another, our virtual terminal, for example, great solution, but now I have to leave my site, do everything manually, type in all my invoices and put them through and go through. Okay, now I got to put all that information from PayTrace back in. We want to streamline that process. We want to make it, as smooth as possible so that you're not spending 5-10 minutes per transaction to get that information when it could have taken you maybe 30 seconds to do that. Construction's, industry, that industry is huge. I know Kevin Hurd talks about them all. He's always working on that. So yeah, I would say e-commerce, construction, health. I'm getting a lot of healthcare coming through as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to the PCI compliance, and we were trying to get people as PCI as compliant as possible. So we can get, for example, using one of our solutions where they can get off of PCI compliance or minimize their scope as much as possible. They're more likely to feel more comfortable that, hey, now this payment's not going to be impacted by, HIPAA or PCI or whatever thing else.
Exactly. Right. There's some large bodies that want to make sure everybody's compliant.
Exactly. The powers that be.
Exactly. And we do a pretty good job navigating that.
I would say so.
I'd like to say so. Yeah. Well, I want to take a break here from my spiel, and it looks like we've had a few questions coming in. So let's tackle some of those.
Sure.
So one of the questions I definitely anticipated was Hank here is asking, is there a cost from PayTrace to develop a custom integration for a merchant? How expensive are you?
Free 99. No, my service is to assist you guys. There's no cost. That comes with it. Sandboxes are free. My service is free before, during, and after integrations. So I'm available for you. That's what we do. We help you.
That was your opportunity to say, $100 an hour.
A 6-pack does well too.
Get some Modelo. I love it, man.
Modelo Negra if you're gonna, be picky.
Okay, good deal. So great question, Hank. Got a question here from Casey. Hey, Casey. Do we have a connection to NetSuite, or can we do a single merchant integration request?
Oh, that's a good one. So I know, Kevin, we do have an ISV with the NetSuite right now. They're very restrictive. I would have to refer that question to Kevin on that. But from a single merchant integration, technically, yes. PayTrace does have an open API. Anybody can connect to PayTrace. You can get a Sandbox account and get that process going. Only concerns I have is make sure that you have the credentials to make a NetSuite integration. For example, there's many developers out there for Magento that are certified to work on a Magento project, so they can make that connection. If you have a developer who's certified to make a NetSuite connection and they're confident they can do that ability, that would probably be a little more lengthy of an integration. That would be a conversation I would love to have. And that would actually also be a conversation we'd like to have with Kevin Hurd as well. Maybe we can turn this into an ISV. I don't know. So the short answer is yes, but there's a lot that would be involved with that.
Yeah. And I'll be the voice of Kevin on this call. So our partner Verosa, who I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with, they do work with NetSuite. They do have the ability to develop out an integration. It's not as plug and play as QuickBooks, but that's definitely worth having that conversation. So we can get you that contact with Verosa, Casey, and anybody else that's interested in NetSuite. But definitely, if they have resources, let's loop in Homero too, because there's a few ways that can play out.
Absolutely.
So really great question, Casey. Thank you. Oh no, Patrick's on here. Hey, Patrick. For those of you that don't know, Patrick's our marketing director. He likes to kind of hang in the background. He's kind of a fly on the wall, but he has a lot of good insight. So we like it when he chimes in. Patrick's got a question from PayTrace marketing team to our sales partners. So you maybe want to take a seat on this one.
Sweet.
But Patrick wants to know, as you speak to merchants and integrations, what air cover / sales collateral would benefit your sales efforts? What do you need from PayTrace to help make that conversation easier and to get going, right? Because we always know that's not the easiest conversation if you're talking to a developer, a CTO, right? How can PayTrace make that easier? So sit on that. you can email marketing@paytrace.com. I'm sure Patrick would love to hear that. That was a fun plug. Or you can just type it in on this call right now. We can track that data too. So, Patrick, thank you. Very cool. So we've got a question here from Michael, and this one's a little long one, so I'm just going to read it.
Okay.
But regarding integrations, how does PayTrace protect the reseller if the merchant wants to later move to another processor at a later date? So part one, so on top of that, can the merchant move the integration at all without the reseller's approval, if at all? How comfortable are you answering that one?
There's a lot that goes into that question. I can tell you from a technical standpoint, when it comes to the reseller moving and processor moving, that's a little out of my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
The integration itself, technically speaking, any merchant account that an integration is built to, all we require for your credentials is username and password to that merchant account. So the integration itself, our system's not going to necessarily know or really honestly care whether or not you're a back-end processor or someone else, who the reseller is. The data information coming from their software to our software is going to stay the same.
Right.
So I can say that from a technical standpoint, their application doesn't need to change. Maybe the credentials will change if they have a new account. But anything past that's a little above me.
And that would just be, in that scenario, just be PayTrace to PayTrace, right? If the integration's the same, there's no protection there, but we do protect the vault, right?
Exactly.
So any stored customers, any of those stored tokens, that needs approval from the current processor.
That is correct.
However, so on the flip side, if they're moving from PayTrace to Gateway XYZ, there's no guarantee that integration is going to work.
There is no guarantee. I mean, if it's an ISV and they're using an IT solution, maybe. If it's a custom integration that you've built using, for example, our JSON API, that's not just going to work with anybody. No, that's very specified to our application and our communication channels.
Gotcha. No, that's a great question. Appreciate that one, Michael. Cool. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so guys, if you do have questions, get them in now. This one is from anonymous attendee. So,
hello, anonymous.
I have no idea who this is, so this could be a scary one. No, this isn't scary. Okay, so kind of case scenario for a doctor or a dentist. Is it pretty easy to put a pay my invoice button online? Let's start with that.
Okay. So we do have two different kind of solutions there. Actually three, depends on how technical you can get. Or I mean, if you're looking for just a simple button, PayTrace has a shopping cart feature where you can make that kind of a plug and play HTML.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very technical. There's not a lot to it. It's kind of limited. It's designed just for, like you said, payment button. Here's a payment. Send in, process this payment, and we're done. If you want to get into a little more control, where you have a little more say in what's going on, maybe use customer vault, pass invoice, more detailed information. We have our secure checkout, a little more involved, but kind of the same thing. You eventually get to the point where you click the button and redirects to a PayTrace page, and you go. And if you have a really technical person, you have a development staff or what have you, you can use our JSON API, so it's on your page. You hit a button, and it'll give you pop up a form. They fill out the form. We encrypt it with PayTrace. Gets sent to PayTrace process. So difficulty depends on how much you're trying to get out of it. If you want a simple solution, we do have one, but you're not going to get a lot of control with that. If you want a lot of control, then it does involve a little more depth.
Yeah, and I'm gonna plug this because I have already, for those of you that have been on my webinars. But our product team is developing out what we now call our shopping cart, and we're gonna rebrand it actually to a new product called the Payment Link.
Can't wait.
Which, as Homero is talking about, right, is just going to be a simple copy and paste some code that PayTrace provides right onto your website, and you can have a nice shiny new button on your website.
Exactly.
And it looks really pretty.
Oh, and it looks real good, guys. Real good.
At least that's what it looks like right now in the testing.
Yes.
Hopefully it stays.
Hopefully it stays that way. Yeah. Good point.
But
issues.
Cool. Well, I think we are right about at time. Homer, thank you so much. That was a ton of great insight.
Thank you for having me.
Again, if you guys have any follow-up for Homer today, any lingering questions that you couldn't think of on the spot, developer support at paytrace.com.
Correct.
Cool. Get a hold of him. If you like this and have some good feedback or anything that you think that we can improve on for these Power30s that you'd like to see, let us know. Sales training at paytrace.com. You can get a hold of me directly. I think in about 2 weeks, we have another one of these coming up. I'm getting some nods from marketing. Okay, is that going to be with Marcy? Okay.
Ooh,
so Marcy Taylor is going to share some diamonds of wisdom in a couple weeks. So stay tuned. Check out our blog. If you guys haven't subscribed to our blog already, James is pulling that up right now. If you want to stay in touch, get that invite for when that gets announced officially. Go ahead, click on that blog button, subscribe, and you'll be in the know. So again, Homer, thanks, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
for having me,
guys. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.